Welcome to Stopping Goliath. My name is J Kimmel, and this is a kind of a special edition of Stopping Goliath for me because I'm traveling. And normally I try to pick some topic out of the news and put an article in the description. But this time I come to you with something different. You see, I'm traveling on business, and I got the honor of being invited to a group of pastors the other night, and we got to just spend some time together, pray for each other, learn a little bit more about what's happening in each other's churches. And these were from all different denominations, just a local group of pastors who meet to pray together and to strengthen their communities. And as you probably know, 1 in 3 people who stopped going to church during COVID have never come back. And we tend to think that it's the same everywhere in the country. That's not really true. For example, in the South, we probably lost a little less than that because we weren't out of church very long. I'm in New York, and here in New York, they were much, much stricter with COVID and all the protocols and how that worked. And so what I was hearing from these pastors is they didn't lose 1 in 3. They lost a lot more than that. Their people were afraid to come back. They were isolated. And so in many cases, they've got huge percentages, 50% or more of their people who left the church because of fear over COVID and have never come back. Some of them are still afraid of COVID. And it makes me think, the folks who have left the church, as a pastor, one of the things I want to ask myself is, why have they not come back? Some of them are believers, they're strong believers, and they haven't come back because of fear, potentially, or social mores, where they just don't think they should be in groups. And for those of us in areas where COVID's done and gone, we would think, well, that's a thing of the past, but it's still real for some. I think there's a huge number of those people who were cultural Christians, who came to church because it was the right thing to do, their family did it, whatever, and they were never really followers of Jesus. And so they got the opportunity to not go to church. Maybe they watched online for a little bit, and now they have kind of a built-in excuse because people say, hey, you want to go to church? Oh, no, we watch it online. And I think if we could go into their living rooms on Sunday morning, we would find that they're not watching it online. They've simply left, and they're not planning on coming back. And they're not planning on coming back because they never followed Jesus in the first place. Now, there's still a group of believers who are following online. They're doing those things, but they've left their community. They're not joining in fellowship with other believers. So we've got these different groups of people who used to be in church, but they're no longer part of the body meeting together face to face. And I think it's a really big problem. And it's also a really big opportunity. So what can we do about this? How can we help the situation? Well, the first thing is all of us need to be praying for those who have left and not come back. And we need to be intentional about trying to figure out, why has Mr. and Mrs. Smith, why has the Jones family not come back to church? Because you see, a lot of them were never Christians in the first place, and they desperately need to hear the good news. Just because they were in a church building does not mean that they understand the gospel. There are people in your mission field who have been in church who need to hear the good news about Jesus, and they need to hear it from you. There are also people who simply have gotten out of the habit, and we need to be praying for them that they would come back. As for what we can physically do, once you've prayed, once you've talked to people, please be intentional about inviting them back to church. For us, we've identified it as a people group we're targeting at our church. We literally want to find the people who left church and never came back. You see, the last thing I want is for someone who's already in a church and has a good church home and they're serving and they're in that community. The last thing I want to do is pick them up out of their community and bring them to mine. That doesn't make any sense at all. They're already in a godly community. We want to find those people who are living life by themselves. You know, the devil roams like a roaring lion, and he has used this opportunity with people away from their church family, away from their brothers and sisters. They're isolated, they're vulnerable, and that's when he attacks. And we are seeing divorces, we are seeing suicides, we are seeing all kinds of social problems because people have left the community of believers. If you think this truth is something your friends, your neighbors need to see, please share this video. Please subscribe to our channel. Please like this video. And if you do subscribe, hit that notify bell and you'll be the first to know when we drop a new video. I want you to take a moment right now to pray for the folks who have left the church, because any of them who come back will be very glad that you did.